And I'm going live. So I'm reading a few poems that I wrote last year on World Poetry Day, and this should be rather interesting. We'll see what happens. This actually should be rather interesting. I had just come back from medical leave to my job, and right now, also I want to mention I am sick still. But anyways, let's go. Okay, last night. Last night, a poet touched the raw wound unhealed that had festered and festered for a long time. A raw wound I had ignored for a while under the guise of time, and slowly it started to scab over, realizing that 22-year-old me was never alone, as she blamed herself for her son being different, as she berated herself for not being a good enough mom. Obviously, this is a poem about my oldest son and just what I went through with him. I wrote that poem inspired by a poetry book I read about a mom who had a similar experience. And this one is called World Poetry Day 2025. In my Poets Museum, I guard vulnerable verses about my abuses I'm not ready to share with the world. In my Poets Museum, I find solace and comfort in my writing of raw, emotional wounds I allow to bleed out in ink on paper. In my Poets Museum, I live, I die, I love, I hate, I cry, I laugh, and allow all of these feelings to be captured on paper and simmer and grow. In my Poets Museum, I slowly start to heal and go to a place I've never been before, full of excitement, potential, and adventure. I like this poem. I think it could use some heavy edits, obviously. Um, this one is a little bit more telling about me. This one is called Eyesore. No one would know from all of the confidence and borderline arrogance that comes out in posts how there are still some days I still feel like the ugliest girl in the world. How sometimes I want to burn my skin off and start anew. How sometimes I hate my loneliness and my scars and ask God why to make me so different, so prone to circumstances that mark my body so vividly. And while logically, I know this is just a mix of PMDD, hormones, sleep deprivation, and Mercury retrograde. There are still days like today where nothing can convince my brain I'm an eyesore who needs to be hidden from the world. I really like that one. I actually really do. This one is called To Shore. To Shore. Swim, swim, swim in a deep blue sea. A rush of the waves come crashing in, overwhelming alone. I feel more than 24. My abuela tells me I'm at the flower of my youth, but I wonder whose, because with a new baby and an autism diagnosis only with the other one, I'm wore down to my bones. no time to eat, sleep, or even breathe. And when fatigue sets in and my body screams at me to rest, I whisper I can't. There's always some kind of urgency I need to tend to. The baby crying, or my oldest son's teacher on the phone, my partner's mom dying, my mom telling me I have so much to live for, and I swallow all the shards of hurt that want to come out. But I swim, swim, swim in the deep blue sea, even as the waves are crashing in. So 20 years later, I write this poem in awe of how I survived it all and made it safely to shore. That's a poem that I wrote reflecting on how hard it was when I was 24 and I had a new baby and I had a child with special needs and I was just trying to juggle it all. And I was also a college student and I also worked, and I had just moved in with um, my ex-husband um, and his mom, who was like medically fragile and she was dying. I don't know. I don't know how I survived it all, but somehow I did. And I made it, I guess, safely to shore. All right. This one is called Desmadre, and I think there's a copy of this poem somewhere that I've read on YouTube on one of my shorts. Is this from the playlist? Uh, what is it? Something about mi peor es mejor que nada, something like that. Okay, this one's called Desmadre. Fui tu desmadre, fui tu aventura corta de lujuria que tú quisiste disfrazar como amor. Fue divertido por un tiempo mientras que nosotros nos mentíamos, hasta que te cansaste de mí y me abandonaste. Mi corazoncito roto tuve que expiar. No supe cómo seguir después de ti y todo se siente como un desmadre. Yeah, I don't know. This one is I think the next one's about death, and it's called Again. Blow the last breath of your ashes. Let's try this again. Again. Blow the last breath of your ashes over the Pacific Ocean. You always loved the beach. You always found solace running into the waves and laughed astray as they crashed into you. Blow the last breath of your ashes into the Pacific Ocean. I wish upon a tide that one day I'll see you again. That one day the burning of your departure will turn into a dual ache. That one day I'll find my laughter once again. I don't think I had a specific inspiration for that poem. It just came somehow. I mean, I could have read something or watched something. And this last one is called Autism. And it's just, God, it was just, it's something else when your child is diagnosed with autism or any other special need. And it's tough. And you think you'll never get to the other side of betterment, or you know, like, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You just have to trust yourself enough that you'll get through it and have this blind faith. And I did get to the other side with my child, but I felt like I was running a marathon, and when that marathon started to slow down, that had become so much a part of my identity that I didn't know, like, I didn't know who I was after that. So this one is called autism. When autism. When the diagnosis came, there was no time to process it. You were at the end of early intervention, and at hyperspeed, I had to do everything I could to make sure you weren't left behind and swept under the educational system's rug. And at 22, I was so young, so ignorant, but also very determined. Determined you have a better life than me. Determined your diagnosis or a label wouldn't deter you from reaching your potential. So I aspired to the dreams and expectations I had for you when you were born, completely disregarded the term normal from that moment on, and instead focused on you. The boy in front of me who never asked to be here, never asked to be born to some stupid teenager, never asked to be labeled different. But still, here you were, my sole responsibility, and somehow you made it to the other side. Because I ran and ran from teachers to therapists, from books to support groups, and getting anything else for you to have the best life possible. And 22 years later, I can finally process it. The raw pain of learning my child will be different. The life planned for him gone in a matter of minutes when the doctor said, autism. And while I understood, at 22 it was overwhelming. Even as the doctor told me I was a good mom and you'd be a productive member of society, it was still hard to take in, almost unreal. And out of the same child I never signed up for, but there we were. And now we are here 22 years later. Now I allow grief and joy to coexist. The diagnosis was never your ultimate destination, but rather the start of your hero story you're still writing. That one I really, really love. That one is one of my favorite poems to perform, to read, because I realized, I don't want to brag or anything. I just very grateful that I was who I was in that moment when I was 22, and even though I was so immature and God, I was so ignorant and not educated at all, I still did my best, and me and my kid did make it to the other side. Crazy now. Anyways, I didn't know if I was going to read more poems, but I'll see y'all later. Or not.